Okay, hello everyone. My name's Kelly, or Ghost of Cabby, reporting to you live from the scene of Minneapolis, Minnesota, with all the crazy ICE riots about illegal aliens and whatnot. Wild, wild stuff. It's going on just outside, but we're in a safe house right now. I came in here to where it would be quiet to talk and explain to everybody what's going on in the news before we go back out there to the action. So bear with me for a second. Just wanted to warn everyone, though, that it is dangerous out there. There are convicted revenge pornographers, serial harassers, and abusers of women. Out there, it's nuts. Anyway, okay, sorry, that's all bullshit. Take these stupid glasses off. I have good eyes. I don't need glasses to see. But I apologize for the deception. This is not about that. But if you're willing to keep watching, we're going to talk about history and a beautiful internet community known as the Dabbleverse, which if you give it a chance, I promise you'll love it and be hooked for life. But I needed to do that little ruse there for a second, just for an experiment I'm trying, to copy my beloved Imholte to see if I could capitalize on this national, upheaval going on right now. But no, who cares about Minnesota? That place is nuts. Nothing's going to change. Let's talk about World War II and the current situation in the Dabbleverse. Now, since the last time we spoke, I've been very sick. I apologize for the delay. I might cough or drink water while we're talking here, but I wanted to get this out because there's just been too much going on in the Dabbleverse to not talk about, and we got a lot to cover. I'll try to be concise though, so this doesn't ramble on for hours. Real quick, before we get into the continuation from last video. Few apologies. The last video I did, I said something about Miss Judy, didn't like her, might have called her an old gook or something, I can't remember. But after that video came out, I got a notification from YouTube saying that her legal channel was a new subscriber, and then I looked, and she wasn't a subscriber, and I had one of those thumb downs for that last video, so then I felt really bad. I was like, oh, she must have watched it and thought I was entertaining, and then when I said something bad about her, she probably shed a tear and was a little hurt. So Miss Judy, for watching, I apologize. I'll try to post a link in this video. Look in the description. I always put a few links of funny stuff or things I think are relevant. Excuse me. But there's something that when I see Miss Judy, I always think of as a clip from a famous movie, and I think that's why I had strange feelings towards her, as I was being influenced by the film versus her in real life. Another thing I have to talk about is tons of new people out on the Dabbleverse. I'm not going to take credit for that, like Aaron or something, but I remember when I first made a video, I said, anybody watching, I said, you should make a video. We all need to get involved in the Dabbleverse so this wonderful universe can continue to grow. So there's this guy named Draper Express. Go check him out. I'll post a link if I can remember to do so, but he's been posting amazing videos, clips of John. It might be audio, but it's stuff of him on the Stern Show, just all his dumb bullshit from 20, 30 years ago, and it's fantastic to hear. There's also this guy named Dabbling Doofus, who has a little, Cardiff Electric potato filter type thing, but it's of John, and he breaks down John's shows into like 15 and 20-minute videos, so you get to hear all the funniness without having to pay attention to John or give him money. And then there's a wigger named Thomas Jordan. I'll be honest, I don't think his shows are that good, but he did have this great thing where he confronted John in real life and everything, so give that guy a chance just for that alone. Although I do not support the pretending to be black thing. I think that's ridiculous. Anyway, now that we got that done, let me explain why I've got a real map up here for a second. Okay, the last video was focused on the Battle of El Alamein, which is right here. Ignore most of these blue dots. They have nothing to do with the Dabbleverse, but this one does. El Alamein is right here in about central Egypt. This thing says Europe kind of gets in the way, but Egypt starts about here or so. So you can see, looking at this real-life map, that at the time of that battle, the Africa Corps of the bad guys, John, Aaron, all those people, had pushed far into Egypt. Alexandria is only about 60 miles away right here, and then you have Cairo, the Suez Canal. So they're very close to being able to sever an important supply lifeline for the British. Now, Again, when we stopped, I was talking about the stalemate of where the British were going on the offensive, which is the good guys, Carl, Shuley, Melton, all those people, but have not broken through. Since we've last discussed the Dabbleverse, though, there was a huge breakthrough where they got through the minefield and then started chasing them across the desert, which is what happened in real life. This right here, it's probably about 2,000 kilometers, give or take. So once that broke, Hitler ordered everyone to stand their ground. Rommel defied those orders because he cared more about his men. And they retreated. So along here, along the northern coast and everything, back in Libya, Benghazi's about here. That fell to the British. Then Tripoli, which is the capital of Libya, that fell at the very beginning of 1943. And then they pushed them in here to Tunisia. Now, at this time, and we're going to switch to the Dabbleverse map in a second, but just to set the stage, while you can see everything, is that then, like I said, the United States had entered the war, so then we had Operation Torch. We landed here at Casablanca, and then Anglo-American forces landed at Oran and Algiers, up here on the Algerian coast. So American and British troops landed, facing weak Vichy French forces, and started squeezing what was left in a vice. So you got the British coming this way, Americans and British coming this way, with some French support. And then the Germans and Italians started pouring resources into Tunisia, which was part of a French colony at the time, to try to hold on to something in Africa. They didn't want to lose completely. So this right here of Tunisia, a little bit of Algeria, and Sicily, and Malta right here is what we're going to focus on in the Dabbleverse. Okay, so let me take this down. We don't want to hurt this old girl. Just give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that, but that map's important to me. I don't want to mess it up. So here's a zoom in of right there. Here's the Mediterranean Sea. That's Sicily up there, Malta. This is Tunisia. We have a little bit of Libya right here, and here's Algeria. Now, like I said, since the last time we met, big changes that I was not expecting to happen so soon, but they did. Is John, as you know, is suing Shuley and Carl. Shuley's not on this map, but don't worry about him. I tried to cut down the cast of players so it's not as crowded as last time. Just focus on core people. But John lost his thing to change the venue. So now that trial is going ahead in Rochester, New York, whatever county that's in, instead of Manhattan. That's a huge blow to John, because remember, he does not pay for any of his lawyers. So I looked it up on Google Maps. It was like between 5 and 6 hours to get from New York City to Rochester each way. I don't think those guys are going to waste that much time going back and forth up there for all kinds of bullshit. So hopefully that's a huge big blow for John's lawsuit. So that represents what happened back in El Alamein. If you haven't watched that, go watch my last video. It's like a 2-part. These things kind of go together. But then they broke, so there was that huge retreat. Okay, so now we're here in Tunisia, where they're trying to stand their ground. Let's explain what's going on here. This Carl right here is the British 8th Army, okay? There's, hopefully I'm not in the way. There's Tripoli, so now they've crossed into southern Tunisia. At the same time, the U.S. and British landed in Morocco, Algeria, overran all of that, Vichy French, which Chad Zumock, he represents the Vichy French forces, which did offer some token resistance for like a day or so, but then they broke, because, that's what always happens with Chad. He's quite weak compared to the others. But I like Chad, and I always try to include him in some way. Quick side note on Chad is, I've never done a Chad-focused video, because, again, there's just not enough material to really talk about him like I do the others. But he is important in the Dabbleverse, because he is he's like a cartoon adversary. Remember how you used to watch cartoons growing up? The bad guys, they lost every single episode, and there'd be sometimes like a 2-part episode like, oh, they might win, but they're not, and they always lose every single time, but they never get fully defeated. That's like Chad. He's that lovable loser bad guy that is never really a threat to you, but he never finally goes away. Kind of like John's herpes, like never goes away, or genital warts, whatever he had. I don't know if there's a difference between the two, but John has some kind of sexual disease. Anyway, so all of that was under British command. A guy named Harold Alexander, which is going to be Melton, representing the 1st British Army. Now that included a corps of Free French, which is going to be Haley, then a corps of American infantry, represented by Tukey. Now, when they were moving in and they first got to the Tunisian border, like I said, the Germans and Italians were pouring reinforcements in. So that's why we have Ava, or whose real name is Naveed, by the way. I don't know if I ever said that, but I found that out sometime between making these videos. So Naveed or Ava, whatever you call them, represents what's left of the Africa Corps. And then Keanu represents what's left of the Italian troops there. Excuse me. Then John is going to be the 5th Panzer Army, which represents German reinforcements coming in from continental Europe. And then Vince, of course, is going to be Erwin Rommel, the overall commander. Which, by the way, again, notice the details you get here with these videos you don't get anywhere else. Look at this beautiful, seamless red and green paper that I made to represent a combination of both German and Italian forces. He was in charge of what was now called Panzer Army Africa. Or maybe it was Panzer Group Africa. No, Panzer Army Africa. Army Group Africa. That's what it was. I apologize. You know, when I was a younger man, I used to know these things as well as my own face. But as you get older, you know, little details of history, they start to just leach away. But, yeah, that was Army Group Africa. So he's in charge of everything. Now, under Rommel's command, the Germans attacked America right here in February 1943. It was a battle called the Kasserine Pass. First time U.S. troops ever went against Germans, and it was a one-sided German victory. That American commander, don't worry about his name, he's not important, but he was sacked and replaced by a famous guy you probably heard of named George Patton, who is going to be Tukey right here. And he reorganized and reinvigorated the American forces to where now they got back in the action, recovered from that defeat, and started pushing the Germans back. Meanwhile, we have the 8th Army under Karl here. They got into southern Tunisia, and the Axis had these fortifications here, known as the Mareth Line. But what Karl did, or Montgomery in real life, is they simply just went around, outflanked them, instead of going through. Now, what was left of the Africa Corps was severely depleted. The Italians, as you know, were worthless, which represents Keanu and Ava. These are worthless people. They do offer some support to John, as the Italians did offer some support to the Germans in real life, but it was never anything really reliable or useful. At the same time, like I said, Patton reinvigorated, and now they're moving forward here, and they're moving up here. We have the Free French moving in, and the British, and you see that what is left of the Germans is just getting squeezed into a little vice. Well, I should say the Axis. Again, the majority of these troops are Italians. Now, this is important because they continued this little seesaw, but it only lasted a few months, and by May 1943, the Axis had fully surrendered here. So, get a little sad face because they're gone. Now, that's important because notice we haven't talked about Aaron yet. He's on the map. He's over here. We haven't gotten to Aaron yet. And that is going to be something I want to talk about. But real quick, excuse me. Again, I apologize for the coughing, but I'm getting over being sick. This is not the end of John, okay? The legal thing, and then of course the brilliance of Vince fucking with John. I don't mean to get sidetracked, but you probably heard that John is poor, and he had to get put on Vince's YouTube Premium Family Plan because he can't afford $20 or whatever it is for YouTube. So now, because John's an idiot, Vince has full access of all of John's YouTube history. So at the time of me filming this, it hasn't come out yet, but stay tuned. Watch all the important shows. I guarantee you that's going to drop within a week, if not sooner. But we should hopefully find out all of John's YouTube streaming, which, excuse me, I guarantee you he's watching tons of Karl, he's watching tons of Tukey, tons of Shuley, maybe even Melton, Kevin Brennan. But we already know John's a drunk loser. But once we get his YouTube history, you should see that basically all he does is wake up in the morning. This is my prediction. Is wake up and he'll see just in a given 24 hours, just dozens of YouTube videos where he's just consuming anything about the Dabbleverse, just hoping to stay relevant when he's not doing his own show, and then getting drunk. I guarantee that's what we're going to see. And one other quick thing about John's legal stuff is I just have to mention this because, his son, Oscar Turner, is a young boy at Harvard right now. And I myself went to the Harvard of the South. Feel free to guess in the comments what you think that school is. I'll give you a hint. It's not Vanderbilt. But anyway, it's just funny because John always talks about college and education. And Miss Judy, again, to bring her up, she was talking to this other lawyer about John's case. And again, this woman is an outsider. She knows nothing about the Dabbleverse. And she's looking at John's case. And she says, in a polite way, nicer than what I'm saying, but she says, this guy's an idiot. He has no case. Again, it just sounds like his feelings are hurt. And he's like, Judge, please stop talking about me. And John, of course, goes off on Judy and this woman, and he starts attacking this woman's credentials, where she was not only an actual lawyer, but a tenured law professor. And she went to Rutgers, and John starts shitting on Rutgers. Now, you know me, I'll make fun of the North all day long, but Rutgers is a good school. Rutgers is, it's not Ivy League, but Rutgers is older than the United States. It's one of those colleges that was around back when we were still British colonies, like Harvard and Yale and all those other things. So, and again, John didn't even graduate. Remember, John went to fuckface college in New York City to study film, which isn't even a real degree, but he didn't even graduate, I mentioned college football. I'm an Alabama fan. Spoiler, you probably figure out that's where I went to college. But Alabama's big rival is a school called Auburn. It's like the little brother. And sometimes you'll meet Auburn fans that would badmouth Alabama. And this could apply to any college, but it goes back to John. And you find out they didn't go to the school. Like, John at least went for a little bit, but you find out people not only did not graduate, but they never went to the school. And it's one of those things was like, why are you bad-mouthing my school or my degree when you don't have one? It's kind of like somebody that says, like, Ford sucks. And it's like, dude, you don't even have a car. You don't even have a driver's license. Why are you bad-mouthing my car? Anyway, I don't mean to get sidetracked with that, but it's just funny how stupid John is. So, again, pay attention to Vince, the tactical mastermind, the Rommel of the Dabbleverse. He is going to have a new fuck over John soon, or we're going to see all his YouTube stuff. And, of course, his legal case is crumbling. Now, again, back to Aaron. Okay, now, in this little comparison, John is the Germans, and Aaron, I've made him the Italians. I believe this was the 6th Italian Army garrisoning Sicily, which is this island up here. In real life, and this is going to explain what's going on with Aaron. Besides being sick, I've delayed putting out this video because it makes me sad. Because again, Aaron is my, he's my retarded twin brother. We have that psychic twin connection. We love Toe here at the Cabby Empire more than anybody else in the Dabbleverse. You notice I don't talk about Karmic much. I don't care about that guy. He's just like, even though he's from Minnesota, he's just some idiot that has no life experience. And he's stupid. But he's not like an evil guy, so it's hard to hate him like, John and Aaron and even Chad. But we love Toe here. And this is what I'm getting at with Italy. Is Aaron is like the Italians at this point in the war. Because, again, being buttressed by the Germans to hold them in the fight for longer than they should have been. Now that's gone. So now, May of 1943, the Axis are completely pushed out of North Africa. Okay? So, July 1943, they launch Operation Husky, which is the invasion of Sicily. So, they attack here, Patton and Montgomery. They land here and here. About a month of fighting. Italians suffer some more casualties. The Germans managed to retreat across the Straits of Messina, which is not pictured here, but is on the other map, to mainland Italy. Now, that's important because this is where we're getting to Aaron. Is once Italy lost Sicily, that was the final straw. Okay? Now, it was another month or so before the Allies were ready to invade mainland Italy. But once Sicily was gone, the Italian government started secret negotiations with the Allies saying, we're out of this. And they said, we'll get rid of Mussolini. We'll sign whatever you want. We just want out of this war. And that's what happened. So, once the Allies invaded mainland Italy in September 1943, the day they did, The Italian government arrested Mussolini. They overthrew his government, and they signed an armistice with the Allies. Now, the Germans rushed in again to buttress what was left. There's actually this awesome like commando raid where they rescued Mussolini and then set up a puppet state in northern Italy. But we're not going to get into all that right now. The point is, Italy fell, and they're knocked out of the war. And that represents Aaron because, again, he's missing all his goals. Nobody cares about his show. Nobody's clipping Aaron anymore. I still watch and enjoy This Little Piggy, but you see they kind of struggle about stuff to talk about because there's just nothing going on other than what I predicted before. Now, again, I'm not, splitting the atom on this. Stevie Wonder could probably see that this shit was coming. But it's what I said before about Aaron is getting far more desperate for people to pay attention to him because nobody is and nobody cares about him. So he's been trying to bait everybody, with his classic bullshit. But, he's lied and said that his daughter is the one who took out the restraining order against Melton, which is complete bullshit. She has no idea who that is unless she's had to listen to her dad rant, which I wouldn't be surprised if he put her through that. But unless Aaron has done that, she doesn't know who Patrick Melton is. He's missing lots of goals. Nobody cares about his show other than me. But, I don't even watch Aaron's show. I liked watching Patrick Melton, my liege lord of the Dabbleverse, make fun of Aaron. And that's how I got hooked on his show, was just watching that guy trash Aaron. He still talks about him occasionally, but not that much. Carl talks about him, really just on This Little Piggy. Haley occasionally talks about him. Tukey occasionally talks about him. But pretty much everybody has moved on to other things, which is good for them. Their shows continue to grow and be successful. Aaron is dying on the vine. And that's what I said about he's getting more and more desperate to where, like I said, he's trying to bait all these shows to talk about him. But also, my little deception at the beginning here, where he's talking about going to the ICE riots in Minnesota. Now, he's so close, it makes sense to go there. But you've seen that he's gotten tens and hundreds of thousands of views, but it's not, it has not gone over to making him any money or getting many other followers. He's gotten a few hundred subscribers. Like when I saw the one thing where it was like 200-something thousand, I was like, oh, it's my boy. It's like a phoenix rising from the ashes. Your boy didn't do too bad. But yes, he did do too bad because nobody gives a shit. And that's very sad. But mark my words, okay? Hopefully this doesn't happen now, at the ICE riots or anything. But you're going to see this idiot desperately try to get people's attention. It's going to make him do something crazy, and he's going to violate his probation and then go to jail. Again, there's no way in hell he makes it 2 years behaving because he's never been able to go 2 years of behaving. And that's when there was no pressure. Now he's got, the whole legal system on his back. So watch out for Aaron. The Tunisian campaign is the ultimate culmination of, him essentially being knocked out of the war. Again, at this point, Italy is not fully out yet. We still got to cross the ocean, take Sicily, but it's just a matter of time. And it's very sad. Well, depends on who you ask. For me, it's sad because I love toe coverage. And, it's my favorite stuff in the Dabbleverse, even more than Stuttering John. Although John is the king. Again, remember, this is not the end of the podcast wars of the Dabbleverse. John, like the Germans, has lots of fight left in him. We have years. At this point, May 1943, hopefully the war ended May 1945, the European part. Japan, of course, is still fighting. We've not talked about Japan, although I'd love to do a Fall of Malaya campaign with Carl as the Japanese and John as the British, because that was a huge, huge disaster for the British. It would really illustrate well just how Carl has, almost single-handedly destroyed John. All these other people are great at fucking with John, but again, this guy gets all the credit for making this wonderful thing of just fucking with John and everybody seeing what a piece of shit he is. But I don't want to talk too much about John right now. Again, I wanted to focus on Aaron. I don't know. Let me see if I got any notes here. If anything else important. I'm trying to keep this quick because I'm sick. And again, the main point of this video was clickbaity to see if I get any views because of people looking into what's going on in Minneapolis. But keep an eye on the Dabbleverse. Okay? Again, this is a short, abridged version of real life history, but you can see it correlates quite well to what's going on in the Dabbleverse. We have Idiot Chad, who never puts up much of a fight like the French. You know, he's never that good of resistance, but he's never fully defeated. He always manages to come back. We have John and Vince, like the Germans, and then we have John's lackeys here. You know, they will retreat, like I said, to mainland Italy, and the Italian campaign was perfect for the defense, which what John's always on. You know, the war will drag on for years and years. But Aaron, my sweet, sweet, beautiful Aaron, is close to the knockout blow. He's hanging on by his fingertips. I don't know if this shows up on camera, but he's hanging on right now. We don't have a lot left to go for Aaron. Just mark my words. He's going to do something stupid to all of us, to me, to you, everybody watching, all of these people. He's going to do something insane to try to be relevant again. You know, the ice thing is a good indicator of that. And it also shows how he's been watching. I mentioned this little piggy. He's gotten all his ideas lately from watching that show. So I don't think those guys like evil enough to do this, but it would be hilarious if they put a seed in his head to get him to do something stupid to violate probation. Again, they're not going to do that because they're not mean like I am. But lastly, excuse me, and then I'll shut up, is again with John losing, I shouldn't say losing, but the motion was granted to move his stupid bullshit lawsuit to Rochester. So keep in mind for that, okay? Hackamania, no, not Hackamania, that's coming up, but DabbleCon 3 in Rochester outside the courthouse. It's going to be amazing. If that actually happens, I, of course, will be there. Although Hackamania sounds like that's going to be the event of the season. Make sure to use your promo code, whatever they are, and get yourself a ticket at a discount. I think you get 10% off if you use any of those promo codes. Check out all the new people. Make sure to check out Dabble and Doofus and Draper. Shit, what did I say his thing was? Draper Express, I think. I don't know. Like I said, I'll put links in. Check those guys out. They're fantastic. There's probably other ones that I'm forgetting, but I mean, I love how there's all these new people. Don't forget about Thomas Jordan. You know, give that a shot. Ashley Cummings is still around, that crazy bitch. You know, feel free to watch her if she's covering Dabbleverse stuff. All my favorite shows, of course. You know, watch them. And that should be everything. Let me see. Okay, we went for like 27 minutes. This is like my shortest video probably, but really I don't have a lot to say. Again, I just wanted to say the important thing is that Aaron is about to go down for the count, all right? That dude, unless something insane happens, he's going to be out of the Dabbleverse, or like a Chad, where it's just like kind of just hanging around. But I mean, as far as being a major player, his time is over. And I don't want this to happen, although it would probably be good for him, but just wait and see. He's going to do some stupid shit to get attention. And he'll get attention. Like, he'll get his wish, kind of like selling your soul to the devil, you know, it's a high price to pay. But in doing so, well, I'll talk about him again, but then it's going to mean he's going to jail. So just wait and see. My sweet, beautiful toe. So let's all caress his face one last time. And that is it for Aaron.